Makani, Homaya Bemi, Nisenan Wakamni, Lightum Lily Yapamni. Hi, I'm Shelly Covert, and welcome to Nisenan Heritage Month. We're just getting things sorted out. We haven't really done Facebook Live before, so this is our first shot. So we're going to be bringing you content all month long, talking about Nisenan culture. Our theme is reflections, and you know, there's so much to reflect on. We were just talking earlier about how far we've come in the last 10 years. A lot of people who don't really know Chirp or the Nevada City Rancheria, or maybe you know us fairly recently in the last couple of years, we've been raising the visibility of the tribe. And you know, 10 years ago, that is not where we were. I think we had been, I know we've been completely erased from our landscape here, and we really weren't anywhere to be seen. And so there's been a lot of work that's gone on for the last 10 years. I'd like to take a moment, because this is Nisenan Heritage Month, and you know, there are other Nisenan folks who are not associated with the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe, and I would like to just take a moment to honor them as well. And you know, it's not been for probably more than 150 years that anybody has even said the word Nisenan or Nisenan, as my grandfather would say. So a part of that, you know, is that we've worn labels put on us by outsiders from the onset of settlement here in Northern California, where the tribe is from. And you know, it's taken, I don't even know how to verbalize that very well. It's taken not only internal personal capacity for me, but for my family and the tribal families to get to the point where they feel safe enough to talk about the culture and talk about what's been lost. I know that in my own family, the elders and my other tribal members as well, it's not just my own family, but they are very adamant about being invisible because it wasn't okay in the past to be seen and to identify as a Native person, not just here in California, but all over the place for so long. So I had made a post the other night, last night, boy, the time blurs together. I shared a very special song, and it's my Uncle Dan singing a cry song. And for those of you who may not know, the Nisenan were a cremating society. So we burned our people on pyre, and at the time of death and the time of burning, the person was burned, and the immediate family would embark on a very, very strict mourning ritual with a lot of very strict protocols. And one of the things, the women would shear their hair. They would use a hot coal to burn their hair off all the way to the scalp, and they would use pine pitch and the ashes, and they would wear it on their head, on their face, across their chest, and they would put it on the children. And this was a practice of deep mourning. And they would wear that substance until it wore off. So they say usually like 10 months a year, you know, is about how long that they would wear that and show their mourning outwardly through those customs. And so I shared my Uncle Dan's cry song, which I think normally would not be okay to do. But in the 70s, a bunch of our family members were recorded and put on an album. And so his song has been out there in the public for decades now. And I think if that had not been the case, I wouldn't have had the permission to share something that internal in such a public way. So we paired this song with my painting that I did, and I think this is a glimpse into just a piece of Nisenan culture. And while of course I can't stand here on a Facebook Live chat and tell you about the depths of Nisenan culture, I mean, not in one setting anyway. And if any of you guys know me, you know I can talk and talk. So, but this painting that I did was part of a gallery installation called Calling All Coyotes, and Judith Lowry, who's Chirp's founder and a very important person to us here, the Nevada City Rancheria and Nisenan people, at a time when we were completely invisible. Judith came into our lives, and really at the time, I feel that she was one of the only people who saw us. And, you know, she really worked tirelessly and effortlessly for almost a decade of her life trying to change that. Trying to, as she said, annotate the record of the history where the Nisenan people were completely erased and were not part of our, you know, our gold rush identity here. Seems that all life starts with the gold rush, and a lot of people don't know that, wow, you know, there was this ancient society that had been here for thousands of years before the coming of the gold rush. And at the same time, it's a very strange position for me to be in. I think about it sometimes. Had it not been for Old Man Potts, who is a person who came to seek his fortunes in the gold fields in the 1800s, had he not come and homesteaded the land where the Nisenan and our family were living down by Rice's Crossing, you know, we probably wouldn't be, no, probably again, we wouldn't be here today. As he homesteaded the land, it afforded us a sense of protection that other families were not. They didn't have that privilege at that time. So if you can see that as a privilege. So anyway, long story, right? All of this coalesced for me into my painting. Again, Judith Lowry, culprit in this case. During this Calling All Coyotes show, she said, you know, Shelly, what's your piece? And I originally thought that I was being included on the emails, just sort of, you know, to be included in the emails. I don't think it dawned on me that I was actually going to do a piece, because I don't really paint, I'm not a painter. But Judith gifted me the canvas and the paints, the brushes and everything, to create something. And that's what Judith does well. I mean, I'm not a speaker, and she'd be like, get out there and tell your story, you know. Yep. And fond memories of creating this piece. So this piece, you know, especially paired with my Uncle Dan's cry song, you know, that the cry is the ceremony that happened at the burn and after the burn. A deceased person, all of their belongings were burned with them. It's not like today's society of bequeathment or, you know, when you pass on your empire to your children. That really didn't happen back then, because all of their items were burned. A lot of time their houses were burned along with them. And so that cry, it's this whole ceremony, an ancient custom for the people to cry and send these folks on to the afterlife with our tears and our mourning. And my grandma told me that she was a little girl, and the old ladies would cry and wail. Some of them would try to throw themselves on the fire as it was burning, and people would stop them. And she said the old ladies would go up to each other and wipe each other's tears. So it was really this time of mourning and outward mourning. Because it also in our family, if you know anybody in our family, or a lot of Indian people, I suppose, you know, they have that stoic Indian piece of them where they're not, they don't cry easy, and they're very, you know, stoic, I guess. I don't know. It might be the wrong word to label a bunch of people with. But the time to cry was very specific. And you cried and you mourned. Sometimes they would hire other people who weren't even in the family to come cry and just really send these people off in a way that was good. And so Uncle Dan in that song, he is weeping. he's crying, he's mourning. And if you listen to the end of the song, he really, I feel that the old timers, especially the medicine people, had a responsibility. Like, they take you through this journey, it's their job. They bring you through, you cry, and at the end of the song, he like lifts up, and you can hear him uplifting the people from that place, you know, that deep place when you're so sad, and then being able to lift him up. So I put his voice over, you know, with the image of this painting, and this is one of the creation stories. This in the background is Escamianing, which is our sacred place. We know today is the Marysville Buttes, and when we go to the afterlife, we go to the mountain here, and we go to the roundhouse that's there, and we eat our first spirit food, and then we go off to the Milky Way. And so in this story, though, here's Coyote. He probably doesn't look much like a coyote, but you know, in this story it says that humans could live forever. They were like, you get hurt and you just either go to the water that fixed you up, or you go up the mountain, and when you came back down, you were all replenished and ready to go again. And I guess Coyote didn't like that, and he just howled and whined and cried to Creator, saying, you know, it's not right that they live forever, you know, those humans. And I guess after a long enough period of badgering Creator, Creator finally said, okay, fine, when you're dead, you're dead. And as, you know, the story would have it, because Coyote, just because Coyote, his son, who's here, had climbed to the top of one of the great pine trees, somewhere near Grass Valley, like these hundreds of feet tall. And somehow he had fallen off and crashed to his death. And he didn't come back to life. And so Coyote's crying and crying to Creator, say, bring my son back. And, you know, and Creator said, hey, you know, like, this is your doing. What's dead's dead. Kind of like, you know, obviously there's a very deep moral to that story. A lot of the Nisenan stories don't feed you the moral very easily. They really make you work for it. You'll have these long, long stories, and the endings leave you like, we're so used to everything being packed up for us, you know, beginning, middle, end, climax, you know, turmoil, the plight of the hero, or whatever it is. But a lot of those old stories just kind of leave it up to you to interpret for yourself. And this is the spirit road that our soul takes after death, to go to the mountain and then off up to the Milky Way afterwards. But I think the whole point of coming to you, you know, this evening with this story was really to give some context around the sharing of that song on Facebook, which, you know, in one piece of me honestly feels a little dirty to me. That it feels a little exploitive. You know, and then I pair that with, well, it's already been on a record for like decades. Some of my cousins say without his permission. But I think in the beginning of this Nisenan Heritage Month and everything that we're trying to do and raise the visibility of the tribe, and I really think to bring some of this old wisdom of this landscape back. I'm having a hard time seeing any of it anywhere, because everything's so cut up and sliced up, and you know, you farm over there and you eat over here, and it can all just be, you know, it is America that it is today. But that America, you know, isn't sustainable. And I'm not someone who refrains from much of anything America has to offer, so I'm not saying this in a blaming way in any way, shape, or form. But it is a fact that the old ways, living with nature and not using nature and bending it and breaking it to our will, there's really something that can be said about that. You know, I'm not sure the road we're going down, But I brought that song just in the hopes that we could start this month with some real, true honoring to the people who are still here today, many of whom did not survive, but are here today, and Native people, you know, all over California and all over the world, that people are still there, and I think I can say most of them. Most of them, even if they're living in a city, there's something inside them that is deeply connected to the land. And scientifically, if you just want to think, well, if you lived in one place, you know, for 13,000 years, your descendants, even though it's a couple generations removed, are still going to have that pull, that magnetism, and also the deep sorrow. You know, when trees get cut down, big ancient trees get cut down, or a stream that's been flowing and being gets stopped or diverted, and all the other creatures in the world that are just as important as humans. They tend the landscape just like humans do. You know, we have thumbs, so we can do fire. That's what we're supposed to do. Burn the land, burn the dead, take care of our ancestors. Anyway, this is a long rant to really just bring some acknowledgement to the ancestors who are buried all over this landscape for me and my family and our tribe. We're walking on them, you know, we're building on them, but regardless, the spirit is still there. So please tune in for the rest of Nisenan Heritage Month. I hope that some of this information, we're going to be talking about things like this, that, you know, when you do a 10-minute presentation over here and a Zoom over here, a lot of the content I feel I shape to fit other circumstances, and this whole month is going to be shaped to our circumstance, which is, you know, as Judith would say, annotating the record. Let's get the story straight. And sharing a history, there was another perspective that was impacted by this history. And it's an old, ancient, sophisticated, rich history that people should know about, at the very least. So, please tune in for the rest of Nisenan Heritage Month. We're going to keep bringing little bits like this. You know, share widely. We do have a fundraiser going for the month. We have a pretty lofty goal that's set there because of course, preaching the choir here, because of COVID and our inability to gather in large gatherings. You know, we decided to do away with the in-person pieces this month and just turn it into this digital collage of our content. What do we want to say? And I guess I could stand here all night and talk if I wanted to, but, you know, in recognition of all that I just said, I want to thank you and tune in again. Aqua.